I use this metaphor frequently throughout my work, the metabolic candle, that the length and quality of your life is largely affected by how fast you live, how much you live, how intensely you live. So the two illustrations that I use of this phenomenon all the time are, does anybody know who this horse is? Say it. What?
Seabiscuit?
Yeah, that's right. It's Seabiscuit. And just if you reread the story, you'll know that he was a phenomenal horse. He was smaller than normal. And you know, most horses, like the Triple Crown is for 3-year-olds, right? He didn't start winning races, you know, between 5 and 7. That's when he won his most races. And he set records that have never been broken up to this time. He was a phenomenal horse. But when he retired, he actually retired at 7, and they put him up at a ranch up in Willits, California, up north. And he lived out the rest of his life in beautiful apple orchards and just a very relaxing life. But he died when he was 14 years old. Now, if you take care of your horse, you know, horses can live pretty healthy up to almost 30. So Seabiscuit is a really good example of the metabolic candle. When you study the way race horses are treated, the way they're trained, the extremely rich diet that they're given, and the way that they're trained and pushed, made to be nervous all the time, it's extremely unhealthy for long-term living. So Seabiscuit's story is a really good example of what I'm talking about, burning the metabolic candle. By the same token, here we have another present example. Tom Petty passed away recently. 66 years old. He has been on the road for the last 30 years. He just came off the road a few days before he had a heart attack and died. So, I mean, I don't really think that Tom Petty did that much more drugs than a lot of other people, but Tom Petty died of the road. He died of burning the metabolic candle at both ends nonstop for 30 years. I'm going to use this metaphor, this idea, this expression, the metabolic candle, throughout this lecture today. And so I just wanted to sort of define it and illustrate it so we're all on the same page and we understand what I'm talking about, the metabolic candle. Components of detox. So it's very simple. The primary components of detox consist, first of all, of hydration. But in general, we are dehydrated. The water that you drink in the 5 cups of coffee every day does not count. For every cup of coffee you drink, you are losing 2 cups of metabolic water. During a detoxification, between 1 and 2 liters of water is optimum. If you're not used to drinking that much water, it will take you a couple weeks to get up to that because your body just is not used to accepting all that water. So many of our problems, especially chronic illnesses and chronic diseases, can be solved, if not vastly ameliorated, at least 1 liter a day. And if you're detoxing, try to get that up to as close to 2 liters as possible. So read the water chapter when you get a chance. Diet. Stop taking in trash. As we clear out the tract, as we clear out the blood, we're only going to be adding enzyme-rich foods to nourish you during the detox program. We're going to go over that in detail. Clear the tract and clear the blood. You know who this guy was, right? Weston A. Price was the dentist, and in the 1930s, he and his wife went around the world for 3 years, and he was looking for what? He was looking for the
Healthiest people.
Exactly, the healthiest people on earth. And here's how he evaluated. The healthiest people on earth were not only those who had the longest life overall, but who had the longest life pain-free with no degenerative diseases. And also they had strong bones, no evidence of osteoporosis. He finally noticed, Weston A. Price finally noticed that the people who lived the longest with the most disease-free life, they had certain characteristics in common. All throughout the world, across the world, they had characteristics in common. Here were the common characteristics. They had a mineral-rich water. Glacial milk, he talks about that. You know, if they lived in mountainous areas like Switzerland and the water was so rich with minerals that it would be milky and cloudy, not because it was polluted, it was that mineral-rich. That was one characteristic. Fruits and vegetables, they hadn't invented pesticides and herbicides yet. Okay, fruits and vegetables. Whole grains, whole grains. A very important source of B vitamins as well as essential fatty acids. A little meat, fish, and raw dairy, and that's it. So you could spend all kind of money. South beats diet, North beats diet, paleo diet, this diet, that diet. I just saved you a lot of money here. Here's the diet of the healthiest people who have ever lived on this planet. And I'm just really summarizing this. He documents this extremely well in his book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. Yeah. Okay. There is no legitimate program of detoxification which does not begin with the colon. This is kind of like a criterion how you can separate the professionals from the dilettantes. Now here was a guy who really inspired me in this field. 11 years university, I graduated from all that without ever hearing terms like probiotics, mucoid plaque, you know, colon disease. So that was Richard Anderson. I was guided into the aura and the influence of four or five of the top people in the world in individual areas of study at that time. And one of these was Richard Anderson, the naturopath, the specialist in colon detox. And that was in Phoenix, and it was all medical doctors and me in this room, you know, for a weekend, and we all just did, you know, pricking your finger, getting a drop of blood, looking at your blood on the microscope. We just did that, identifying the common imbalances in human blood. And then I was really intrigued by this. I went with Bynum on several occasions. We traveled to the Philippines and to Asia, and we did hundreds of live cell tests in the third world, and we saw, you know what I learned? I learned what the word stress really means in the third world. Stress does not mean your mother-in-law is coming over for the weekend. Stress means you live your life hovering between life and death. That's stress. And people who live like that, their blood has a certain look to it. It looks like hell. It looks really bad. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of that. Bynum taught me so much. He taught me to think at the cellular level, especially when it comes to supplementation, when it comes to nutrition. You think about the concept of bioavailability. How much of your food is actually being broken down, digested, and actually getting to your cells? Every cell of your body has requirements, just a couple requirements every second of your life, from the moment of birth to the moment of death. What are they? To take in oxygen and nutrients and to expel wastes. To the degree to which the cells of your body are allowed to perform these two functions, you will be healthy. And so that was Bynum who inculcated that idea, and that is directly coming from Edward Howell. So we'll talk more about Bynum in a minute here. Does anybody know who this handsome gentleman is? Okay, this is Patrick Flanagan, wonderkind of antioxidants. This is a whole long story too, but I'll just tell you, he invented an antioxidant which has no peer in the world today. The 60-day program, as I said, consists of this simple, common sense diet and then 7 supplements. And these are the 7 supplements. Now, here's the philosophy of Bynum. Stan Bynum taught us this. As far as supplements go, number 1, 95% of the supplements that you see in GNC, in Walgreens, and in the drugstores are manufactured either indirectly or directly by whom?
Pharmaceutical.
Exactly, Dr. Wade has it. The pharmaceutical industry. Their job is to make a beautiful label and to put the cheapest ingredients in those supplements as possible. Spend money on marketing and promotion. Outside of that, there is another category of supplements that are well made. They are valuable. They are nutritionally valid. And there is another smaller category of that group which we really need for complete cellular nutrition and bioavailability, which we really need to clear the tract and clear the blood. And so Bynum always said, we want people to be spending the least amount of money possible on supplements, to be taking the least number of supplements possible, but still to enable the cells of our body to perform those two functions, to have a clear tract and clear arterial system all the time. That's the goal of a legitimate detox program. This is Stan Bynum coming right at you from the grave. That's exactly how he talked. There was a guy, came into my clinic one time, young man about 30. He was George Bush's limo driver, Secret Service, but I treated him anyway. Did the bioterrain test on him. He had this red face. He had this red face, and he had these chronic allergies. He was a DEA agent. He had to crawl around down by the border in Arizona and New Mexico for years, and developed some kind of sensitivity. Well, he had been to every specialist at Walter Reed, you know, back east, and all the geniuses, giving him every antibiotic and every anti-inflammatory known to man, and it was getting worse. It was getting worse and worse, and nothing was helping him, and he was going to lose his job. He was going to lose his job with the Secret Service. So in desperation, he came to me. We did this test. His blood looked really bad. The after looked excellent. After means, okay, what I do is I take their blood, record the blood. I'm going to show you this. And then I give the enzyme and the antioxidant, Flanagan's antioxidant. I wait 30 minutes, and then and they drink water, you know. I wait 30 minutes, and then I retest, and then we see the difference. And so, and I made him give up all these weird ideas of these elimination diets and all these complicated things that he was doing, which it was making him worse. Stop all drugs, simplify your diet, hydrate, and do these supplements. That's all he did. After 60 days, he was halfway better. He had to do the 60-day program twice, and he got his life back. He was completely cleared up. What I take away from Sean's story is this. You know, these people with chronic allergies, they come in and they tell you they've had chronic allergies for years. They've been on antibiotics for years. Here's a clue. If antibiotics are going to work for your problem, they work in the first few weeks. If they don't work in the first few weeks, you don't keep on taking them for years. They're immunosuppressive. It's going to be that much more difficult for you to ever reestablish normal homeostasis if you do that. So that's an easy one. People coming into you telling you that they've been on antibiotics for 2 years. You can improve their health 50% right there. Okay, second one is there was a lady from Florida. Okay, yeah. Turned out she was the niece of somebody famous. Masseter, right under that, she had developed 3 lumps. And so she had these lumps biopsied, and they were malignant, right? So she did the usual slash and burn, chemotherapy, radiation, the heaviest drugs possible. 6 months later, they came back, and there were 6. Now there's 6. So she went back to the geniuses, and what do you think they wanted to do now. Exactly, Dr. Ralph nailed it. They wanted to do the exact same thing. Now let's see. What does the word exponential mean? 3 goes to 6. Oh, well, that's doubling. Okay, so she really didn't want 12 lumps in her jaw, right? So she decided to try something else. She didn't have a great lifestyle, but it was so simple. She just was doing a few things out of balance. It was so simple to eliminate, I don't remember if it was coffee, cigarettes, alcohol. It wasn't to excess. It was just a little bit or whatever it was. And the diet wasn't perfect, but she never heard of any supplements before. And she did this program. And I mean, you know how the cancer... You know how the cancer industry works, right? Especially with your families, you know, people in your family get cancer. When anybody suggests not following the regimented recommendation, you know, you get all this pressure from the families, and it becomes this big family thing. And so, of course, that was something that was majorly factored in. So it's very difficult for somebody to resist all that and to go the holistic route and let the healing powers of the body actually take over and give you a chance to survive. She went through all that, actually did it, and then but this woman was strong. She knew in the first, she would email me all the time. In the first 2 weeks, she knew, you know, you can feel it, you get this feeling. She knew that she was equilibrating herself. She was calibrating herself, and she was on the right path. You know, that mental attitude is really critical in a healing process like this, especially one like this where you're on the way down. So of course the story goes, in just 60 days, not only did she have no cancer markers, no symptoms of cancer, all her other symptoms were gone, and the lumps were almost completely gone. They had reduced on their own. And then she told me some 6 months later they were completely gone. So that was a very dramatic one, but it's not unusual. It's not unusual. This story was not unusual at all. If you go to the section on the website titled Feedback and Testimonials, you'll find dozens of patients telling their stories how this program resolved imbalances that had not responded to years of conventional care. And many of them were, how shall I put it, on their way out. So when you have time, click on the feedback button.